You know what artistry and elegance get you?
Carjacked! Mario Kart has been an iconic video game staple for decades. It has consecutively set the standard in what makes a good, fun, clean kart racing game, and nobody has yet to dethrone it. Now, of course, it's no Garfield kart, however, I still think it deserves, just a little bit of praise. I mean, it does have Mario in it, that's gotta count for something. But what if I told you back in 2010 there was a kart racing game that came out that offered quite a bit more, dare I say it, a better experience than Mario Kart. And that little game that I'm referring to was called Modnation Racers, and today, that's what we're talking about. This video is sponsored by nobody, but in case you wanted to support the channel, I'm going to leave a Patreon link in the description. Just wanted to throw that out there. I'm sure you have at some point experienced or seen people play Mario Kart. Whether you're a fan of racing games or not, you've likely played this one. And a lot of people enjoy the Mario Kart series for good reasons. It's a very good game. But what if I told you you could have the fun kart racing experience plus a lot more? You see, Mario Kart 8 is great, however it doesn't offer you much in the way of customizing your character, your karts, or offer a decent campaign mode. It lets you race the tracks, do time trials, and play with multiplayer. That's about it, which is fine in its own right, but back in 2010, Sony decided they wanted a little bit more out of their kart racing games, and that's when they came onto the scene with Modnation Racers. Around this time, I think Sony was putting kind of an emphasis on these creative games where you could play, create, share. The phrase was something along those lines, and they were also wanting to emulate a little bit of Nintendo's success as proven with the PlayStation Move. And Modnation Racers, when it came out in 2010, was definitely something that was on my radar. However, I had my head so far up Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2's ass that I couldn't see anything besides that, unfortunately. Wasted a lot of years just playing nothing but that game, as fun as it admittedly was. I can confidently say that going back to Modnation Racers is one of the best games I've ever played. There's also a little fun fact about the Modnation Racers gameplay that you're seeing, but I'll be sure to include that later on in the video. Stick around for that. Watch till the end, you know what I'm saying? First off, Modnation Racers brought the good kart racing gameplay, okay? The physics were great. The game was really fun to play. You felt like you had a good sense of control. Even when you're going up on these ramps, you had the freedom to spin around, do tricks, and try to land them before you got back down to increase your boost power, your boost meter. It's called a boost meter. And this boost meter wasn't just used for giving you a turbo reserve after you drifted, which a lot of kart racing and racing video games do. This boost meter also allowed you to use a shield, which you had to time perfectly to avoid oncoming attacks, which, trust me, you'll want to do because the AI is unforgivable. They will pound your ass into the ground. You'll feel like you're consistently being blue shelled throughout the map. Not only that, the maps can seem a little hard to get used to at first, but once you master them, it is so satisfying. There's no better feeling than just drifting around this entire map that you were having a hard time in the first place to navigate, while also perfectly timing these shields to block oncoming attacks. You also had the ability to use some of that boost if you had it in your reserve to sideswipe characters off of the map. And throughout your campaign gameplay, there will also be little objectives to keep you incentivized to do different things like hit one of these boss characters at a certain spot. So now you're going from a game that was just about getting in first place to now maybe you want to take a step back, Ken Miles it a little bit, fall back there a little bit, and then hit them with the special attack right as the boss character's going across the bridge, earn a little extra points. There's also rival matches against the boss character throughout the campaigns that you could play to earn extra gear unlocks and their costumes, which was a nice little bonus. This game is oozing with content, and to first start that off, let's talk about the campaign, because this game has a full campaign. Why doesn't Mario Kart do that? The campaign has you play as this punk-ass kid, whose goal is to start participating in these tournaments to help keep your family paint shop alive. If you don't win these races and get the sponsors, y'all are gonna run out of money, close up shop, and that's no good for anybody. However, this old dude takes you under his wing, like Dog from Cars movie style. You know the Cars movie, it's a pretty good movie. This leads you through a a series of tournaments throughout well-detailed and varied tracks, which are all introduced in the beginning of the races through these two announcers that take place throughout your tournaments, which are kind of like real racetrack announcers, which is just a really nice touch. They're really entertaining. It's always fun to see what their next little quips are going to be whenever you start up a new race.
I'm the gorgeous Biff Treadwell, and with me as always is painfully boring statman, Gary Raisins.
Actually, Biff, it's Reasons, Gary Reasons.
After 10 years, I still don't care.
There is a ton of character in this game. Every boss you fight against is unique, every character has some interesting personality about them, and you can make your character look and play however you want, and however you design that character will actually show up in the campaign cutscenes, which is also a nice touch. If you're a fan of customization and kart racers, you 100% want to play this game, alright, because there's no shortage of it. You can strip your character down to nothing, make one eye bigger than the other, you have text and numbers to put across your cars. The karts will start out from a bare skeleton. You can put different bodies on them, different wheels, suspension, spoilers, accessories, vinyls, decals, letters, numbers. I mean, it just really keeps going on and on. The level of customization is like some Little Big Planet style shit. This is basically the Little Big Planet of kart racers before there was a Little Big Planet kart racers, which was coincidentally made by the same people that made this. No surprise there really, because they were that damn good at customization. Every track you play in is very good, and they all differ a lot from the last one. They all range in difficulty and introduce different hazards throughout the campaign. As you get deeper into it, the characters get harder and harder to beat, and the maps also introduce different ways to help take out these enemies. You can trigger different mechanisms at different times to try to wipe other people off of the map. And speaking of wiping people off of the map, I almost forgot to mention how the power-up system works. Now, you get power-ups like any other kart racer, however in this one, you have the option to use it or you lose it. But if you choose to hold on to it just a little bit longer, you can collect other power-ups throughout the map and get up to 3 stages on your power-up that can deal a devastating attack. So it's kind of like a risk versus reward system where you can choose to save it up and have a devastating blow that can really give you an advantage, or you can just use it while you have it before you get hit and you lose your power-up. So the campaign is good. The racing gameplay, phenomenal. And these two elements alone are enough to rival Mario Kart in itself. However, there's one more big thing about this game that I love that is really untouched by almost any other racing game that I can think of, and that's the track creator. Once you finally ran out of all the content you can muster in Modnation Racers, you can make your own. This thing has an incredibly well-made track creator that basically gives you the ability to make infinite content. You can make a track pretty much to however your heart desires. You can give it different loop-de-loops, underpasses. I don't know if you can actually do like the Hot Wheels loop-de-loop thing, but other than that, your options are pretty much unlimited. You can create your power-ups and hazards and traps and whatever else you want throughout the map exactly how you want, but if you're not quite that creative, there's an auto-populate feature which makes your map look like it was professionally created by God himself and gives you basically a fun new track to play whenever you want. One of the coolest elements about this is back when PlayStation Network was a thing for this game, you could download and share anybody's tracks, right? So you could go onto the track creator store page thing, whatever in the game, you could download other people's karts, see what other people were making, and you could get their tracks. So in case you weren't a really creative person, but you still wanted to experience some of the cool custom tracks that people could come up with in a lot of these games, you could just go and download them and play them and have a great time. And that's something that you really don't see in a lot of games now, unfortunately. I didn't test any of the online servers to see if this was even still a feature that's available for you to try, but man, that's really cool. That feature alone is an excuse to just keep going back to the game, experiment with different ways to make tracks and different ways to play it. The package altogether was an incredible experience, not even mentioning how damn good of a value for the money it was to just be able to create your own content whenever. I remember briefly playing this online like a decade ago, and there were people like making Mercedes karts. I don't know how they were doing it, but yep, that was a thing. Kind of beat you to the curve there, Mario Kart 8. Unfortunately, this game probably fell to the wayside of a lot of people. As previously mentioned, something that Sony always struggled with was brand recognition. So unfortunately, unlike Mario Kart, Sony just didn't really have like a strong icon, a really strong video game image to push this game like Mario Kart does. Everybody knows who Mario is. Oh look, here's a racing game. We could play that. Modnation Racers didn't really have that because the whole game was basically about creating your own image, creating your own character from the ground up. The whole game is about creativity. And in that aspect, aspect, it just completely fucking nails it. Unfortunately, that just wasn't enough to push it into the mainstream, as good of a game as it was. This game was also assisted in production by United Front Games, which we know unfortunately went out of business after the production of Sleeping Dogs, which is another fantastic game. I did a video on that, you can check it out if you'd like. Modnation Racers is a fantastic game, but unfortunately, it just didn't take on as well as it could have. And not all of you may have a PS3 to play this game and access it for yourselves, especially with the growing times and things getting older. However, the way I was also able to record the footage for this game, because the PS3 isn't very easily accessible to me for game capture right now, is you can emulate this game on your PC. If you have a fairly competent PC, this is one of the games that can actually run through the PC emulator with a weird name that I can't pronounce. Man, it's really crazy to think about PS3 emulation, because this was previously seemed to be impossible, right? But here I am playing through almost the entire game through the emulator, and for the most part, it's ran pretty damn good on my 2070 and i7. So I highly recommend checking this game out if you have any interest at all in kart racers, or you just love games that you can customize the ever-living shit out of. Go check it out, go have a good time. If you enjoyed this, let me know, and I'll be sure to try to cover some of these more underlooked games, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. It's been T. I'm out.
Espresso can kiss my wrinkled